Welcome to our third and final segment of our virtual class for February 2nd. In this segment, we're going to look at books 20 and 21 of the Odyssey. We're moving towards the exciting battle scene that you'll be reading for homework. As you may remember, we left Odysseus sleeping out on the porch of his own palace. Penelope went upstairs and they made up a bed for him on the porch, which was the custom for strangers. I guess they didn't have many guest rooms, so it was normal for a stranger to sleep out in the porch area. Why this matters is that it gives him a view as to the comings and goings of the palace during the night. And during the night, the maids, at least some of them, go out to sleep with the suitors. So this is significant to us in two ways. One is that we know some of the female servants, and probably some of the male servants, are unfaithful to Penelope. So the women who are going out to meet with the suitors, clearly they like the suitors, which means that they're favoring them over their own boss. And they're probably the ones who are whispering secrets of what they hear around the palace. Someone among them is the one who betrayed Penelope when she was doing her trick of weaving by day and then unraveling the stitches at night. Some one of these handmaidens was the one who ratted her out to the suitors. So now we see their infidelity, that they're literally sleeping with the enemy. On the flip side, remember that the suitors had said over and over again, "Oh, Penelope is so beautiful, we couldn't think of anything else. She distracts us with her beauty. We really want her for her beauty. She makes our hearts throb." And here they are sleeping with other women. So both sides are lying, and you can't trust a single darn one of them. This does not escape Odysseus' notice. He then begins to worry. He's finally figured out that he's outnumbered. The text doesn't tell us exactly how many suitors there are. Just in my reading of it, I would imagine there to be 15, 20, 25 of them. These would be the second ranking, the sons of the second ranking leaders of his city-state. And we know because Telemachus told us there's too many of us for you and I, Dad, to overtake them. So we know that it's not like 5 or 6 of them. There's a bigger number of them. So while Odysseus is worrying about how am I going to take on all these suitors, a big strapping man like him worrying means that there's a significant number of them. Athena appears to him and she basically says, "Silly man, I'm the goddess of battle. You can't lose. I'll be at your side." So he takes that to heart. But he's got a plot. How is he going to do this? At daybreak, we have to get ready to feast some more because that's what the suitors do every day. So the staff of the palace or of the estate is into this certain rhythm that they have that every day the suitors come and every day there's a big feast. So they've been told how many animals to bring from the livestock herds. So first along comes our friend and hero Eumaeus, the swineherd, who is the person with whom Odysseus stayed and Telemachus met his father at his house. So he's a faithful servant. His name begins with EU, so we know he's a good guy. He shows up with the requisite number of pigs for the daily feast. Along comes another livestock servant, Felicius. That's a weird way to say this name, but that's how it's pronounced, Felicius. And he's the guy who's in charge of the cows. He also shows up with the requisite number of cows. These guys are both faithful to Odysseus. They miss him. They like him. They sure wish he would come back. So they're good people to have on his side. Meanwhile, the suitors are starting to arrive, and not surprisingly, they're plotting Telemachus' demise. They need to get rid of him because he's come of age now. They don't know Odysseus is alive, so the only way that one of us can become king is now to get rid of him. Because even if one of us marries Penelope, she's going to say Telemachus inherits and I go off to live at your house. That's not what they want. They want one of them to become king. Telemachus now is becoming very bold, and so he joins in with them. The beggar is still hanging around. Remember, he spent the night. He seats his father, disguised as a beggar, in the corner and gives him a golden cup. So he's kind of goading the suitors. Not only am I giving some food or giving some drink, I'm giving the choice vessel, the thing that you would give to your most honored guest. I'm giving it to the beggar. So he's kind of pushing their buttons as well. And he says, "I will defend the old man if any one of you starts something." Suitors are kind of amazed at this. This kind of shy little boy goes off on a voyage and comes back, and he's like this strapping young, I'm going to take you on kind of man. Interesting to note that it's Apollo's feast day. Now, if you've followed mythology at all, you may think of Apollo as the god of the sun, with the chariots of fire that run from one side of the sky to the other over the course of the day. But at this point, when Homer is writing, that transition had not taken place. Helios was still regarded as the god of the sun. There's not a battle among them, and we don't really understand how Apollo came to replace Helios as the god of the sun. There's no mythological explanation for it. It's just that people started worshiping Apollo as god of the sun. At the time that Homer is writing, this is not true, and he is the god of archery, which is appropriate, as you will see. So it's his big feast day, and all the more reason for them to have a big public feast. Um, the taunting of Odysseus goes on. Somebody wings an ox hoof at him, and Telemachus says, boy, you're lucky you didn't hit him, because if you'd hit him, I'd kill you where you stand. So now we see Telemachus also getting pumped up, and Athena is getting them ready for the battle. Another suitor tells Telemachus, hey, you've spoken well. Since you're so good at telling people what to do, why don't you tell your mom to go marry someone so that she leaves the palace and the suitors will have to leave, and then you can inherit. So it's kind of interesting that now at least some of the suitors are starting to recognize that Telemachus has come of age. That's the end of book 20. In book 21, Athena is now ready, so she inspires Penelope to launch the contest, the archery contest that she had talked about. Penelope goes upstairs to a hidden vault where she's going to take one of Odysseus's bows. This is one that he acquired from a friend long, long ago, and because it was so precious to him, he did not take it to war with him. So this bow is more than 20 years old, and it's been hanging up there a really long time. In the day, for something that hung around that long, the string that gave the bow its tension would have rotted out in that 20 plus years. So the bow is going to have to be strung. Let me explain what that means, and you'll have to forgive my limited drawing skills. The bow without a string would look something like this. Nowadays, we're used to bows that are made out of composite, lightweight metals that are fairly easy to bend. In those days, there might have been metal, but more likely it was something like horn or tortoise shell that was very, very rigid. So in order to string the bow, you have to pull both of these pointy ends towards each other because you need to create tension in order to propel the arrow. If the string is loose, obviously the arrow's not going anywhere. So in order to do that, they're going to have to be able to bend this bow and pull these 2 points forward towards each other while tying the string. And that takes quite a lot of strength. The text describes this as a back-sprung bow, and scholars can't figure out exactly what that means. That has been lost to time. So we don't know what the design is exactly, but we do know that it required a lot of physical strength to do, which is what makes the contest kind of interesting. So Penelope says, whoever can string this bow most easily and can fire that straight shot through the axe handles is the man I will marry. She then comes down with this bow and tells the suitors, okay, here's the gig, here's what the contest is about. And of course, our buddy Eumaeus weeps when he sees the bow because it reminds him of his boss. Telemachus now does the first physically difficult thing we've seen him do. He buries the axes. There are 12, and he lines them up 6 against 6 to make that narrow channel. He has to bury the head of the axe and leave the handle sticking up. It probably doesn't take all that much strength to dig the holes, but to make them very, very straight so that the channel is a good straight channel requires a really good eye. So what that tells us is that Telemachus has developed a certain amount of acuity that could be very important to him in battle. For example, if he is shooting arrows, he would need to have a really good eye to be able to aim well at his target. So we can see now that he's displaying a certain amount of physical skill, which is something he's not done before. At this point, our 2 herders, the swineherd and the cowherd, are in the courtyard with Odysseus. he reveals to them who he is. He shows them the scar as proof, and he asks them if they'll be on his team. He says that he wants to put an end to this, and it's darn about time. Interestingly, he offers to give them wives and property if they'll be on his team. So again, that shows us how women were regarded. Just another chit to trade. I'll give you some land, I'll give you one if you fight with me. A woman is a prize, just like what we saw with the Suitors, where when they conquered the town, Odysseus shared the women all around. Now Odysseus has built his team, and this is what his team looks like. I call it Team O. We've got kind of a ragtag group. Odysseus himself is very strong. Telemachus is certainly young and fit, but he's not tested in battle, so he doesn't have any experience. He's shown us a little bit of skill, but does he know how to fight with a sword? Does he know how to lob a spear? Does he know how to shoot an arrow? The text doesn't tell us that. And Odysseus might be overconfident in saying, "Oh, my son knows how to battle." We don't really know what his skill set is right now. And we have a swineherd and a cowherd are probably aging people. And you got to think that a guy who herds animals for a living doesn't spend a lot of time fighting with a sword. So this is not a great ragtag, not a great team to have on your side. Facing maybe, let's say for round numbers, maybe about 20 suitors, 4-1 odds. Not a great odds, but that's what Odysseus has to work with. Meanwhile, the suitors while he's making this negotiation, the suitors are starting the contest. Odysseus tells the swineherd and the cowherd to go lock up the gates so that no one can leave. Think about that for a minute. Why wouldn't he want them to flee? He's going to start fighting with them at some point. And it would be to his advantage, you would think, if some of them would say, "Holy crap, the boss is home, I'm leaving, he's too strong." That would be fewer people to fight. But if you think about it a little bit deeper, you realize what would happen. We saw what would happen with the Suitors. Those who were able to escape went and got their neighbors and relatives and friends and came back outnumbered and overpowered Odysseus and his men. And he remembers that lesson that he learned. So no way is he letting any of these guys leave. He's got them trapped inside. That means he's going to have to deal with every last one of them. But it means that they can't go out and get help. So the suitors are trying to string this bow, and not a single one of them is strong enough to bend it. They even try heating it. If it's made of something like horn or tortoiseshell, it might be a little more pliable if it's warm, but they're still not able to do it. So they say, it's a feast day. Let's wait till tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll offer some thighs, meaning, from the meat, the livestock. And it's not their own. They're going to offer meat from Odysseus' livestock. So we're going to offer some sacrifice from that we're mooching off the owner of the estate to appease Apollo the archer, who will help us then in our quest to string this bow and fire the arrow and win the bride. I don't think that's going to happen. Call me crazy, but I don't think so. Meanwhile, Odysseus, still dressed as a beggar, comes along and says, "Hey guys, just for fun, I'd like to try. I'm not going to take the prize, okay? I'm not going to claim the queen. I just want to do it for fun." How do you think the suitors are going to react to that? They've seen him knock out Iris with one blow. They've seen his muscles. They know he's really strong. And how embarrassing would it be if none of them can string the bow? What if he does? What if he's able to do it? How embarrassing would that be? We, the sons of the dukes and earls and nobility, can't string the bow, and along comes this dirty, filthy beggar, and he can do it? No, we can't let that happen. So they threaten him. They say, if you succeed, we'll ship you on out of here, and we're going to ship you to Actus, the mainland king who wrecks all men alive. So we're going to send you into slavery if you succeed. But Penelope, with her newfound strength, intervenes and she scolds them. See, she's brave now that Telemachus has shown some bravery and he's coming of age. She's got nothing to lose, and she really hates these guys. So she says, listen, this is a guest of Telemachus. My son's guest. He's a guest in my house. How dare you threaten him? He's not competing for my hand in marriage, so let him try. Telemachus then says, look, this was my father's bow. I inherit. So it's my bow. And it means I get to decide who gets to shoot it. And I say, we're going to let the beggar try. So just as Odysseus is about to take the bow, this is Telemachus putting the weapon in his father's hand. The battle is about to begin. Put the bow and arrow in Dad's hand, because of our team here, the most fit person, the person who's most likely to be able to do us some good, would be this guy. So if you only have one weapon at this moment in time, you're going to put that weapon in the hand of your best player. And that's exactly what Telemachus is doing in a very subtle way. So just as Odysseus is reaching to take the bow, he whispers to Euryclea. Remember, he told her to shut up? And earlier she had offered to tell him who the bad servant girls were. And earlier he said, I don't need your stinking advice. I'll figure it out for myself. Now, all of a sudden, he has something to say to her, and he says, take the women and lock them up behind closed doors. Have them hunker down and take refuge. So he's protecting the women. He doesn't want them to be in the way when the battle starts. So this is actually one of his more noble noble moments. So he picks up the bow to string it, and Zeus cracks a thunderbolt because Zeus is now on his side. And of course, he shoots the arrow cleanly between the axes. We knew he was going to do that. And then he nods to his son to begin the battle. This reminds me of your favorite television show, whatever it might be, at the end of the season, where they leave you with a cliffhanger. The battle is about to begin. So now for your homework, you get to read the rest of the book, but I'm giving you a little bit of a break. You will read books 22 and 23, but when you get to the last book, 24, you only have to read lines 1 through 15 and lines 226 through 603. I've already posted this to Blackboard under homework. Don't forget that we have our test the next time we meet, and as I said to you in my email, we will meet and discuss the next books, the homework portion of the books, before we have the test. The test will happen at the end of our class session, and you'll have about 30 minutes to do it. And you also have a chance to ask any questions you may have before we begin the test. So I hope you are enjoying your day off, and I will see you all on Thursday.